The fourth commandment says, remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. What is the significance of the Sabbath, and why do Christians not follow Sabbath today?
Exodus chapter 31 and Genesis chapter 17. In both these places, you will find a sign for covenant. In chapter 17 of Genesis 9 to 11, circumcision was called as a sign of the covenant. And in Exodus chapter 31, verses 12 to 18, if you read, you will find that the Sabbath is a sign of the covenant, and that also a perpetual covenant. That means a permanent covenant. Both these covenants are one on the other. You cannot separate them. In chapter 17 of Genesis, the sign of the covenant given as circumcision is to do with the promise of God in Genesis 3:15. The salvation is going to come through the seed of the woman. And therefore, circumcision on the genitals of the male person is to remind of the child that will be born, who will be the person God promised to bring salvation to humanity. And what you see in Exodus chapter 31, 12 to 18, where you have this Sabbath as a sign of the covenant, it is to do with the relationship, a unique relationship God had with the people of Israel, because in 31:13 Exodus it says, God had sanctified them. The covenant at Mount Sinai, where God gave them the worship laws, God gave them the laws concerning their life. This is the way that God had sanctified these people and made them as a distinct people, as a holy nation, priests, and God's own possession. And therefore, this relationship is what is being spoken in chapter 31 of Exodus. And therefore, Sabbath is given as a sign of this relationship, which is a unique relationship, which is a permanent relationship, which never will be revoked. Secondly, the Sabbath command is based on the rest God had after his creative activity. If we look at the end of chapter 1 and the beginning of chapter 2, it says that God had rested on the seventh day after his creation. What is the meaning of rest? It is not a physical rest, that God became tired after creation and therefore you want to take a physical rest. The rest here means that God had been satisfied with what he had done with the creation. He intended, in his creation, a particular idea, and God had completed and was satisfied with what he had done. So that is what it means to say when you talk about the rest. So now, the next question is, did God completely rest? Did man let God to rest? The following story in chapter 3 tells us, man by his sin did not let God to rest. Because the rest God is speaking about, the shalom, the harmony, the relationship God had with the human being, all of them are disrupted. And now that is the reason why God promised restoration. Genesis 3:15, where he promised that plan of restoration. And therefore, you have this plan of restoration revealed in the covenant sign of circumcision, the seed of the woman, and the unique relationship that you find in the sign of the covenant at Mount Sinai with the people of Israel. And that rest has to come through the Messiah. And therefore, when you come to the New Testament, where you talk about God in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 12, Jesus was saying, I am the Lord of the Sabbath. In chapter 12, Matthew, verse 8. And the context of the chapter, if you read the chapter 12, before he said he's the Lord of the Sabbath, the context of this statement in Matthew reveals Jesus said he is greater than the temple and came to reveal God's compassion and redemption. He acknowledges he is the promised Messiah. And what he has come to do is to come to fulfill God's grace, compassion, and redemption in his blood. And therefore, that redeeming Jesus Christ is the Lord of that rest, salvation, that Sabbath. And when Jesus died on the cross and rose from the dead, Jesus completed this rest that God had after his creation. Through his death and the resurrection, Jesus brought that shalom back to humanity. Peace between God and man. Peace among his own people. And therefore, now, the victory is celebrated in his resurrection. And therefore, the resurrection day is what we keep because we have the salvation. We have the rest in Jesus Christ. And that is the reason why the Saturday, supposed to be the seventh day, the rest day for the Jews or the Israelites, is not the same day for us because that rest has been accomplished in Jesus Christ. And therefore we celebrate that rest on the victory day, that is Sunday, the first day of the week.
So we don't follow Sabbath.
We do follow Sabbath,
Yes.
not the Old Testament Sabbath,
Okay.
but the rest that we received in Jesus Christ on a Sunday, the first day, the resurrection day.